Like with you don't want your reputation to be marred by eye gouging, I guess, is the harsh word to use.
Yeah, and as I said, I've got no issues with the AFL putting it up because the look of it, you don't want that. The look for the game is so important, but at least I'd be disappointed if they didn't fight it on that case, the fact that they got up there and had no issues back and forth afterwards.
Bit surprised by the charge, and that might be how they get him off because they've got it unreasonable or unnecessary contact to the eye region. There's a separate charge for unreasonable or unnecessary contact to the face. Right. So I would have thought they would have gone the latter, but they've gone the former when it looked like his fingers weren't really near his eye. So we'll see how it plays out.
All right, well, let's get into the 7 observations. Of course, it is for Kia and the award-winning 7-seat Kia Sorento. After round 5, this is observation number 1, we had a bit of a round table in here about the value of Nick Blakey. And I posed the question, is he a top 30 AFL player? Sammy, I think you were on the cusp and you weren't quite prepared to go top 30.
No, I wouldn't have had him top 30.
Okay, Jared had him top 30 and I had him top 30. Now, Hodge, I understand these top 30s and 40s and 150s are hard to sort of judge, but where do you have him in terms of an absolute weapon in the game, Nick Blakey, and what he's done? You saw him firsthand on Friday night.
He was really good on Friday night. Intercept marking, I think he took 6 in the last quarter.
Seven for
6 in the last quarter, 7 for the game. Is that what it's like when I cut you off?
Yeah, sorry.
And get it wrong.
I went too early.
So he had 6 in the last quarter, 7 for the game. And he's I think what was so catching was his run off half back and that left boot. He's a quality player, but would I have 30 blokes in front of him? I still would. Just because of the damaging blokes throughout the midfield forwards, I would have 30 more in front of him.
Geez, what a weapon, though. I love it when he intercepted, but he wasn't satisfied with going back. He still went. It's right through the corridor and instant play on. Jeez, it was damaging.
The thing that's impressed me about him is, that stuff sort of strikes you and you think, wow, that's amazing. But he's actually defending really good opponents at the moment, just through necessity. And that Richmond game that I first brought it up, he did the same with how decimated their backline is. He had a bit of Curnow, he has a bit of McKay at times and doesn't look flustered. So I just think he's a very impressive young player and I've really enjoyed his growth. All right, Hodgie, we're going to do a bit of a role play for observation number 2. I'm Nick Austin from Carlton, okay? You're going to be Brady Rawlings from North Melbourne, and I'm ringing you on the phone this week ahead of the trade period at the end of this year. So, g'day Brady, it's Nick from Carlton here. Hey, we got Harry McKay. Have you got any interest in pick 2 for Harry McKay if we pay a significant portion of his salary?
Thank you, but we've got a pretty exciting forward line at the moment, and we just want to help develop our list as we go.
So that's a no?
No, thank you.
What do they do? So this is my point. What do they do with Harry McKay now? With the contract that he's got, 2030, I don't think the 7 years has even kicked in yet, Sammy. You'd be all over that. It may have kicked in for the first time this year. But
so he's going through a bad spell of rough kicking, and you trade him.
Well, my concern for the Blues is how hamstrung they are with their list and the lack of emerging talent coming through. And we all thought Collingwood were crazy, and I put my hand up, and I thought they were crazy with their salary cap purge that they did a couple of years ago. And it was confronting, and it was disrespectful, but they did it. They ripped the Band-Aid off, and now look at what it has done. It's almost at the point where the Blues are going to have to do something drastic if the year continues to play out like that.
Well, there's some natural mechanisms that are going to be pulled in regards to their cap, and that is Mitch McGowan's contract, that is Jack Martin's contract. There'll be retirements. I mean, I'll look at Harry McKay, 58-33 in 21, 45-31 in 22, 14-16 this year and going through a rough trot. I mean, what's the old saying? Form is temporary, class is permanent. I think he's got enough credits in the bank to suggest that he's going through a blip.
Would you trade pick 2 for him?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm going down a path at North Melbourne. Okay. And I'm like, Hodgie, I'm happy with my path. But there can be a situation where neither is willing to do a trade and it's the right decision.
Is there a club out there that would Sydney, could Sydney have a look at McKay with Franklin, the money that's going to be freed up there? They've always been in for a forward. This is just the decisions, I reckon, and the discussions Carlton should be having to explore perhaps what they can do with him.
I think when you put that much time and effort into a key forward, they need to stick it out with him because he's proven in the past that he's a quality player. Yes, he's going through some yips, and we've seen a lot of very good forwards in the past go through it. The last 2 weeks, he's tried to fix his routine, tried to kick drop punts from where he should, and you could sort of see as he missed 2 or 3 on Friday night, it did start to play on his head. So if I was them, I'd stick with him. They're getting the ball, they're getting him opportunities. My biggest thing for them is that connection centre forward, rushing inside forward 50. The more that they can have that midfield connecting, whether it's training sessions or in games with those two key forwards, the better they'll be. If I was Carlton, I'd keep him.
All right, Blues fans, you can have your say on that. Am I being too harsh, or should they explore perhaps a list moves that they could make, as drastic as it may sound right now? 1300 736 736. Observation number 3. So Port Adelaide had 10 players under 24 yesterday. Richmond had 7 at the MCG. I want to ask you or discuss how many of the 7 that Richmond had under the age of 24 do you predict will be 200-game players? Jack Ross, I've got as a no. Don't think he'll get to 200. Hugo Rouse-Smith, like he's a goer, there's a crack and there's something about him that's admirable, but I don't think he's going to get to 200. Noah Bolter, yes, tick. He's definitely 100% 200-game player. Ryan Mansell, once again, it's early and it's hard to judge, and he plays a really difficult position and he's got attributes that I really like. I reckon he'll get to 150, but I'm not giving him 200 for Ryan Mansell. Samson Ryan I've got as a no, and that may be harsh because he's a developing forward who they take some time and he's really tall. And
he's looked good at times.
Looked okay, but I don't think he's going to get to 200. Judson Clark, I think, will. I think he's going to get to 200, and Ben Miller is a no. And then you look at who they played against and the 10 under 24s that they had, and they're the names that we've spoken a lot about: Rosie Butters, Horn Francis Bergman. There's a bit to like about Ollie Lord. Not sure whether he gets to 200. Dylan Williams, there's a bit to like about it. But are they in a world of pain with their list is what I'm trying to ask you, Luke Hodge.
Yeah, well, I think if you look through any team that's gone through success, and the reasons why they don't have the high-end draft picks is because they've been at the top of the ladder and had low picks the last 7 or 8 years. And I know they've given away their pick this year and last year with their blokes they've traded in, but that's sometimes the price that you have for going through success. Are they in trouble compared to Port Adelaide? Yes, they are. But Port Adelaide have had some tough years as well, and the list that they've built together is, as we've spoken about the last 7 or 8 weeks, it's a pretty fine list.
Good answer, I reckon, Hodgie. I don't disagree with that. Chris Scott is on the outside very calm and very measured, but I think he's panicking. I think Chris Scott is panicking, and I'll give you some reasons as to why. Why is De Koning playing forward?
Can't fit him in.
Can't
Well, think about it.
Can't fit him in.
Asava Redigalia is now a key defender. Yeah. Jack Henry's come back from suspension.
Yeah.
Tom Stewart obviously plays every week. Kolajasny plays every week.
So you're telling me Jack Henry and Kolajasny are getting a game as key defenders over a player who looked to be
I think
next Glenn Jakovic for 10 years.
I think Sam De Koning's versatility potentially counts against him here. You're looking at that if you're Chris Scott and the coaching staff and thinking, geez, we're overstocked for key backs. They can't all play key back. Some of them have to go. And this is where Asava Radigali is such an interesting conversation in his own right, because he's out of contract and has clearly been waiting to see how the planets align at Geelong. Plus, his value's going up by the week anyway. They just can't fit them all in.
The easiest way to derail someone's career is to throw them all over the place, and that happens to some versatile players. And I've got a bit of sympathy for those players that go through that. Are you with the backs this week? No, you're with the forwards. Go to the forwards meeting. Oh, it's the backs meeting. Now who are you playing? So that disruption hurts, and he just looked like
he looked lost in
the most impressive player that we've seen in a long time out of Geelong, maybe since Joel Selwood when he emerged last year, and now he's forward and he looks lost, and I get that there's been some issues with his body, but the Henry boys, one was back, one was forward, then they swapped. Stengel's playing on ball, Nevitt's playing on ball. I'm going, he's so confused with which lineup he wants to go with, and I think there's, I've got so much faith in him as a coach, and I'm not going to write Geelong off. I'm nowhere near writing them off, but it's just he needs to settle that lineup down, and that starts with De Koning as the next best centre-half back for 10 years. Observation number 5. Hodgie, I reckon you and I have had this discussion, but I could make the case that Brisbane lost that game at Adelaide Oval because players didn't wear screw-in boots. I could make that case. Hodgie, are you with me?
There was a lot of slipping over.
Oh, my goodness.
There was a lot of slipping over. I was told that players aren't allowed screw-ins anymore.
I think that's a myth.
Is that a myth? I hope it's a myth, because there's certain grounds that you play on, Kane, that you have to wear screw-ins. Oh. And the forecast over there, we've seen over there, when it's wet, it's slippery. We saw that through Gather Round. I couldn't believe how many times I saw blokes in important situations end up on their backside.
So I had Charlie Cameron almost running into an open goal with his speed. That was going to end up in a goal. There was one. I had Berry slipping over in the goal square, which cost a goal to Ned McHenry. And Link McCarthy slipped over at the 19-minute mark of the last quarter. Now, the metal studs you cannot wear.
But you're saying the screw-in...
There's a long blade version that the boot companies make, and it's still a plastic, but it's a longer version.
And a screw-in.
And yeah, well, it's like a long stop. There's versions of long stop, soft ground boots. It had rained all week in Adelaide, under lights, raining, and it annoys me. And I had the discussion with Bucks this morning. He agrees. It's unbelievable. The evenness of this competition, they lose by 17 points. 3 goals happened because players fell over. Does Jack need to go back to the VFL, or is there any point in playing Jack Riewoldt now at Richmond? His form yesterday, 5 touches. His defender Aaliyah was unbelievable for Port Adelaide. The previous week, I think he had 11. He's kicked 3 goals in 5 weeks.
Who plays in front of him at the moment?
Well, someone. I mean, what's
Tom Lynch out long term? That's sort of neat.
The season is over. Is it time to farewell the champions of that footy club? Hodge, I think we've all been through it. Is there any benefit to playing Cochin and Riewoldt at the moment, particularly when it's a bit of an elephant in the room with their form?
I think this is where you get to use the managed and rest to give them a go and let them freshen up. Because we've seen when Koch had a rest, came back, kicked 3. When Riewoldt's had a rest at times, he's kicked a couple bags of 4 this year. But it's like that. When the game is that fast, and we know how hard it is to back up week in, week out, I wouldn't be putting them through the VFL because of what they've been able to do for your football club, what they've stood for, what they've pushed their bodies through for your football club and your supporters. I'd be treating them with a bit of respect, playing him throughout the seniors, but giving them more rests than not.
Yeah, I think Cochin's 300th coming up in a couple of weeks' time as well, which he deserves every right to get to. But maybe that is the way that they manage that. And just lastly, has anyone checked on Treaders?
Untenable.
Josh Gavlich had a great thought that he can't wait for the headline with 10 in a row on 10 a bull.
Yeah.
So it's Hawthorn this week to make it 9, but then it's a harder game after that. It might be Geelong. Or the Western Bulldogs.
Just on Port Adelaide, just quickly now that you're done. I don't know about you, Hodge. I fell off my chair this morning. I was listening to Kane with Bucks, and Kane said Port Adelaide cannot win the premiership.
I said they're not in the premiership conversation.
So they can't win the premiership, that means.
Surely
they're not in the conversation.
I did.
What?
Really?
Can you explain, please?
Yeah, I can explain. Well, they don't have enough good players, unfortunately. This is a compliment to what they have done. It is an unbelievable story, their performance this year with what they've got, and that's why I'm a big Ken Hinkley fan. I don't need to put my head up for that anymore. He's coaching as good as anyone. Coach of the year with Craig McRae this year. Their forward line is not going to really scare the life out of anyone in a big final, is it?
Scaring a few at the moment.
Well, is it? I mean, Finlayson has been really impressive, but it's Ollie Lord, it's Ryan Burton, it's Rioli who's out of form. And then I look at their defence. They're going to come up against those big power forwards in finals, and it's McKenzie who's a ripper. Like, he's an absolute ripper, and Aaliyah. And then they're struggling with height down back. And then I look at the ruck and I go, well, Scott Lycett's been pretty solid the last couple of weeks, but prior to that they were going with Bryn Teakle in the ruck. So it's personnel. That's all it is. For me, Hodge, you may see it differently. Obviously, you have opinions. Some you get right, some you get wrong. But I think with their personnel issues, it's going to be really hard for them.
Yeah, if you look back at 2016 Doggies, I don't think their forward line was jumping out. If you look at Melbourne 2021, their midfield got them over the line. Their forward line has never really been something to be scared at. But I think if you go through certain stats, and I know Champion Data go through over the last 10 years what teams are good at that have won premierships. And if you go through and look at Port Adelaide, they have got a lot of green next to them, Kane, as far as defence. They're rated between 2nd and 5th in all the defensive acts that they're talking about. In the offence, they're rated between 4th and 6th. So all the stats that they've looked at over the years, changed the scores, points from the first half, transition football. I know this all has to add up on grand final day, but if you take out that round 2 game against Collingwood, their season has been fairly flawless, I think, or the Adelaide game as well. But everything else, you sort of sit back and go, they're putting their hand up to be in that contention. Yes, we all know Collingwood are a step above, But Port Adelaide haven't done much wrong apart from rounds 2 and 3. And the football, the exciting football that we've noticed the last couple of years, Geelong changed their game to be more attacking, more offensive. It worked for them. Sydney got to a prelim last year that way. Sydney got to a grand final. Collingwood got to a prelim playing that aggressive style. I don't know. I sort of sit back and go, I'd kind of disagree with you a little bit because they're doing nothing wrong to count them out of being the other team in there with Collingwood.
That's what we're saying. We're playing devil's advocate, but
I get that.
You are ruling them out completely
Well,
right.
Right now.
Not even at 5% chance.
At round.
No chance.
I've got it. I know why. He wants to be either like Treaders and having a go against his former team, or he's just trying to cool the Jets on everything. He realises Port Adelaide are up to their neck in this year's premiership race, and he's trying to sit back and go, let's get everyone not as excited. Don't get the pressure on the boys. That's 100% what he's doing. He's got a smile on his face right now.
He's checking his phone. I think the texts are coming through. Played it perfectly.
Ken's going, thanks, Kane. Thanks for trying to settle it down.
In close games. Unbelievable in close
5
games.
5 from 5, 10 points or less.
If they go the other way, then we're having
but this is part of their strength.
Different conversation.
They're a clutch team.
Anyway, I'm
big in the moment.
You know what? I'm more than happy to be wrong. I'm more than happy to be wrong on that one.
Just while we're addressing things, I like this text. By the way, off the 40 Wings Temper 0433 98 11 16. Hodgie, is Taranto and Kane's top 1,000 yet? Is this the time to admit that maybe, just maybe, you'll accept you got this one wrong?
No.
Just maybe?
Look, it's a game out of the box for him, and I was so impressed by his game yesterday. I did it live and thought, gee, his ability to push forward and work extremely hard, like those best, most damaging midfielders do in the game, was an aspect to his game that I haven't seen. And his finishing was extraordinary. But he's not a great kick, and it was out of the box. So happy for him. But I've always said people have seen it as a real criticism. Still see him as a really effective player, and if he keeps doing this or has the impact that he's having, then look out. And I'm happy to have that discussion when and if that happens.
So has he snuck into your top 150 yet? That's a pause.
That's a reassessment.
He's just had 33 and kick 4.
Yeah.
Surely.
7 tackles.
I understand that. Yeah, well, he's always going to a lot. He's always going to
I'm just saying, the full
he's
body
get
work.
a lot of the footy.
Seven clearances as well.
He's always going to, because he stands at stoppage, he goes to all the stoppages. He's going to get a lot of clearances and a lot of the footy. The difference in his game yesterday was clearly his ability to finish, which we haven't seen from him this year, and that is factual.
And you're spot on. And where he kicked the goals from as well, they weren't as if they were 20 metres out straight in front. They were goals. 3 of them were 35, 40 metres out on all different angles, and he had one in the pocket.
And he had one that probably was about a centimetre from not being his fifth.
News just through as well out of Fremantle. The young forward, Jai Amos, this week's Rising Star nominee. Love what we've seen from Jai Amos. He was good at the weekend.
All right, Hodgie, there's a couple of players going to the tribunal to try and get off some sling tackles. Do you give them any chance?
I heard you say earlier, Kane, that you feel for the players, and so do I, because it's so hard. But what history shows that this year, anything to do with any form of a sling or dump tackle, that they haven't had any luck at all. So there's a few there that could mount a good case, but history's not on their side.
What's with Carlton's list of possible outs this week? So Chera's one of them.
Chera's potentially suspended. Hewitt, he's going to miss because he's concussed. Ollie Holland's got the shoulder. He's going to miss. Then there was Cripps is 50-50 probably with the ankle.
Newman with the
and Nick Newman with the hamstring. So it could be 5 changes all up if Chera's suspended as well.
Oh, what a game.
If Paddy Dow doesn't get a game this weekend, then they might just write down there some of the Paddy Dow fan
throw that? How isn't he getting a game? His last 5 games has been 40, 25, 25, 40 with 10 clearances, and then 33, 6 clearances in a goal.
I can't answer. I haven't seen him play, though. I've only seen the numbers like you, so clearly we're missing something. It's just so obvious. How can we not be? But he would appear to offer, he's not overly quick, but he would appear to offer everything that Carl midfield are lacking at the moment. That's burst from stoppage. So burst out the front. That is his trademark, first 10 metres out of a stoppage. And clearly the numbers have been massive at VFL level. I think they have to pick him this week just by virtue of the fact that they've got so many outs.
Weight of numbers. Has the next 3, Melbourne, Essendon and Gold Coast at the MCG for the Blues.
This is why I like the mid-season trade.
Yeah, 100%.
Just creating something different, because when he's playing at VFL level, he's playing in and under the coalface. He's an inside mid. When he gets up to senior AFL level, they're playing him as a high half forward. That's not his role. So... And then they've got a lot of blokes in front of him, hopefully with these injuries that he does get his opportunity. But I know there's a lot of teams out there Hawthorn's one. Sydney's probably another one who do need another inside mid, bigger body who can win a clearance and burst from the stoppage.
Will be leaving come the end of the year, barring a massive 180.
And you wouldn't blame him for that. We spoke a lot about Hawthorn, Hodgie, at the start of the year, and you were almost a spokesperson for the Hawks in terms of opinion when they were getting smacked around, and now they've been so impressive, and that was the case again on the weekend. You want to ask the question about their rebuild?
Yeah, it was just more, we sort of touched on it last week, and every week you sort of see them, and it was just more of a well done to the players and well done to the coaches there that didn't go away from that tactic. We know what Mitch is like, and you've spoken to Mitch a lot on your program throughout the year, Kane. He's a smart man. He knows what he wants, and he's not going to back down from how he thinks football should be played. And I'd just continually go for the players, because sometimes when you've got the media after you and they lose 4 or 5 in a row, that confidence might be starting to go, well, they might want to change the tactics, but they've stuck fat to what they know, to what Sam Mitchell and the coaching staff wanted. And you can start to even hear out in the public that, well, hang on, maybe this bold decision wasn't as bad, and they're still not out of the jungle just yet. They've still got a lot of football over the next couple of years to get up to where they want to be. But I think people outside of the Hawthorn walls can start to sit back and realise and go, well, maybe this tactic wasn't wrong. Should other clubs look to do the same thing? And
his ability to front up when they were under the pump, you win respect from that.
Yeah.
And he brings the Hawthorn fans along for the ride. He's been really open about the strategy of the rebuild, and he explained it exceptionally well earlier on in the year. And then when they were getting smashed, he was prepared to front up and answer the tough questions.